Welcome or welcome back, as the case may be. I'm Michael Storm, the anarchist of comic books, and I am co owner of Amazing Fantasies comic book shop here in Topeka, Kansas. If you're ever in Topeka, Kansas, come by the store and see us. And wherever you're finding this video at today, do me a favor, click, tap, or smash that like button. In fact, if it needs be, get out Mjolnir and smash that thing. Yeah, that's right. Oh, maybe it's Mjolnir, as some people might say. Either way, swing Thor's hammer, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, and hit that like button. Let us know that you're out there. Let us know that you care. It's the single biggest thing that you can do to help us do what we do, which is promote comic books. Yeah, it's to our benefit because we have a store and we sell comic books. But the fact is that we have the store. We sell the comic books because we love comic books, and we love the industry, as confusing and troubling as it can be at times, just like any industry can be. It's something that we love. We do it for a passion. We don't make any money at it, at least not yet. Hopefully, maybe someday we will. It remains to be seen. It doesn't really matter as long as the sales of the new comic books and some of the card games like the Star Wars Unlimited that we sell, as long as that stuff continues to keep the doors open, then we'll continue to have a comic book shop and just continue to try to grow it. And you can help us do that by just simply clicking that like button, or maybe even sharing the video around if you like it. I do a number of these, kind of piggybacking on my limited but worldwide exposure that I've built up over the years as someone who's famous in his own mind, if nothing else, and just for talking and about talking about things, and sometimes a lot about comic books. And so I do these reviews because I get to read. I'm reading a lot more comic books these days than I have in many years, and I'm truly enjoying it. The industry is in. Maybe it's in a renaissance. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just seems like it because the COVID years played such havoc on the market for comic books, and some of the things that create comic books, the people and the pieces of paper that they're drawn on. All of these things, just like everything, went through this period here recently, and so anything having gone through that would seem like it's better coming out the backside of it, right? We won this thing. We've won it. Now we can move on. But really, truly, there are just some amazing stories happening in comic books, and they are making the waves, and people are paying attention, and it leads to what brings us here today to chat for a minute, because I'm not doing a comic book today, as you'll know by the title of the video. I'm talking about comics, the magazine. And well, that is exactly what it says it is. It's a comic book size magazine, and it is being sort of couched as people are talking about it as, including myself, because there's reasons for it, as being, you know, the next Wizard. Remember Wizard the magazine, the guide to comics? It was a fantastic read for a long time, and it truly opened it. A reader all my life, and a reader of comic books, a reader of books, a lot of Stephen King when I was a teenager, and I'm a reader, and I didn't read magazines cover to cover, but I read Wizard cover to cover every month, from the first one up through a lot of them. It was a lot. It was a long time before I walked away from comic books in general. The whole thing at that point, it was just something that was not on my radar anymore. And then the troubles. You probably know the history of Wizard. If you're watching this, you probably know the history of Wizard more than I do, because I didn't follow along with it. I just enjoyed the magazine. I wasn't involved in any of the drama in terms of trying to figure out what all of the drama was about, and the manipulations of the market and potential releases of comic books, and just some weird things that were going on in the background, and or they were accused of, and I really don't know a lot about it, and I don't think it matters. I think what happens is that Wizard was like a lot of things that are at the forefront of their industry. A lot of businesses that are at the forefront of their industry, they get a little bit too big, and they become the best and the worst of their representation within an industry, because they become the biggest and the best, and they reach the most people and they do the most good. But at the same time, certain practices, certain things that are going on in the boardroom and in the back rooms and in what have you, end up turning it upside down, and turning it away from being what it's supposed to be, which is just a magazine about comic books, a fanzine. That's what they called them, a fanzine. About comic books, that people like myself, because there was no internet, of course, at the time, and of course the internet plays a role in this, because really Wizard wasn't around for very long before the internet came along. And so it was bound to happen, and just as it has with most print magazines. Even National Geographic is one of these magazines that has been out there for many years, and it's not gone away. It's still out there, but it's shifted in the way it's produced, and the way that they gear the content more towards the delivery through the internet. They still compile a magazine, but the content is specifically meant to be delivered through the internet. And they even got rid of all their staff writers. They fired everybody, and they have this different content method. It's been a while since I read something about it, but it's just one of those changes that's happened to a lot of print magazines and newspapers, and just across the board in print medium over the years as the internet has come along. But the Wizard, Garrett Shamus, and the crew, they had their troubles, and they did their thing, and as I've talked about many times, they are the best and the worst of something. Stan Lee is a perfect example of the best and the worst, and the things that he did to what he saw protect his industry and to protect his company, and but were what they really were was gatekeeping, and they were things that forced that ultimately that's what led to Image being created. Those guys walking away from all of the, you can call it a dictatorship. It's okay to speak ill of the dead when the dead acted in ill fashion, and that's the truth of it. If you're speaking of it in any real sense of fairness and morality, Marvel and DC held a trademark on the word superhero. You can use that wording, that phrasing, to describe your comic book, and they held it up until fairly recently, and that's sad. That's a sad thing, because that is exactly what I'm talking about. The worst of it. The way that you stay the best and you become the best is that you're always striving to be the best. And when you get lazy when you are the best and you start to cut corners, then somebody's going to catch up with you and beat you and surpass you. But if you use the force of government, if you use bad business practices to keep other people out of the business, eventually it's going to come back and bite you. And for all the good that Stan Lee did to the industry, he did a lot of bad to it too. He stole a lot of things from people. He took a lot of credit where it wasn't all his to give or to take, or to be given, however you want to look at it. And he also, again, amazing some of the things that have happened. But that there's no question that what I'm saying is a reality. Whether you would feel about Stan Lee or anyone else involved in those different changes and things over the years, and what happened at the end of it all is the proof of what I'm saying in terms of the best and the worst out of these guys and what they do for their industry, and this Wizard was that as well. It was just the same case. And because they're trying to protect themselves, they're trying to protect their interests, they're trying to do what they think is the best for the industry, and or to line their pockets. And any one of those things can be a problem at any given time. But when you're on the top and you're making the money and people are listening to you is when it's easiest to happen. But so I guess the point is that really to be the next wizard, it really isn't going to be that hard. It should be pretty easy. All you have to do is keep it honest. And so that's not, obviously that can't be a criticism of Comics the Magazine, because we're not there yet, right? We haven't got that far. But there is one criticism that I do have of it. I want to start with that because the rest of it is a glowing review of something that the industry needs. And you know, if you have to leave now, knowing that that's where I'm going with this, then so be it. Click the like button and move on. It's fine. You've learned. But I encourage you to stick around because I want you to know what's in here and what I'm thinking about it, and each of these different things that's involved inside Comics the Magazine, and what we can hopefully look forward to. And I give you some opinion on it and some clarity on it from a number of perspectives, as a person who has been a collector my entire life, as a creative, someone who can draw and write, as a business owner in the industry, somebody who deals with the industry and the changes in the industry on a daily basis, as an attempt to create a livelihood. And as somebody who has been a contributor to a major publication, to a large publication, a magazine, a periodical, I contributed for about a year to, which is like 3 or 4 issues because it's quarterly at the time anyway. I think it had been monthly before that for many, many years. It's a magazine that had been around for a very, very long time. And then a company that I worked for bought them out, and it was in the UK. The name of the magazine is Electronics and Beyond magazine, and I wrote for it for about a year, several issues, and did some things on technology and microprocessors, and writing code for microprocessors, and doing this sort of little, here's an introduction to a new processor that's out from Mitsubishi or somebody like that. And I'd travel to the Silicon Show in California, and go over and even help out. And I mentioned Mitsubishi in particular because that was one of the companies that I worked with. That we helped them in their booths. What we were doing at the time, it's nothing to do it now, just so that you know, is it was micro programmers. So everything from what you would like, sort of the beginnings of the USB, plug it into your car, rewrite the code that's in your car, or rewrite the code that's on some processor in a machine. These things were done, physically for many, many years. You'd take the physical devices. There was no way to reprogram a device. You had to open a thing up and pull a device out, or you had to create ways to deliver the power and the code to a device in system. Those are in-system programmers, and we helped make all these. And I would write about these things, and so I have experience writing for a magazine. But as somebody that worked for the company that owned the magazine, I also have some understanding about the creating of it, and how big of a thing it can be, and how important it can be to the people who read it, and the people who expect something to come of it. And so it's really neat for me to be able to do this. So let me get to the one criticism, and it's right off the top, and it's going to be about the price. And people are going, what do you mean it's going to be about the price? The comic book, or the magazine, is only $2.99. What are you talking about? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's right. The price is too much. No. That would be silly. $2.99 is a wonderful, wonderful price, but it's not enough. It's not enough to sustain a comic book, a big comic book, a comic book magazine, any print item right now. And we know this because nobody else is at this price point anymore. This is a quality comic book. This is 50 pages of magazine. I keep calling it a comic book. And it has the comics, and it has those things. And it's comic book size, and I usually do comic books. If there's any confusion about why I keep calling it a comic book when it's a magazine, you understand. It is a comic book magazine, and it has all of the the important parts of a comic book magazine that you would expect them to have: the articles, the little cartoons, somebody teaching you how to draw. All these things are in there, and the only way to keep those things in there and to keep producing them and producing them at quality and to produce them regularly, to be able to keep up with the fast pace today in a place where digital can take the place of any of this stuff anytime. People, more and more people are reading digital every time. These physical things, people love them in the comic book shop. I love them because it's something that I can hand to my customer and say, here's what's coming out. Let me know if you need some of these. If I can at all get them to let me do it, I will attach this to my app for that I use for the store to provide a copy of it. It's not something that people can copy or steal or something like that and spread around, but it's something that my customers could be able to use to know what's coming up, to understand what's going on in the industry. But that's something that I do with the Connect magazine and the new app, and there's an Image magazine. There's that tell about the comic books that are coming out. And I recently have, that I built the app, and the app is doing really well. It's working really well for us, and it's providing all the tools that we need and more. And I'm developing more as we go along. But one of the things I want to be able to do for the customers is give them this ability to look at what comic books are coming up, and to get more of these things like this, Comics the Magazine, into my customers' hands, because that ensures that they're going to come back. If they read it, they're going to come back and they're going to say, hey, you know what, I was checking out that new comic book magazine thing that you gave me. What was it called? Comics the Magazine? Oh yeah, well, that's an easy one to remember now, isn't it? Comics the Magazine. Yeah, I was checking that out, and there was this thing about stray dogs. I don't know what stray dogs is, but do you have that? Is that something that's around here? Do you have that ultimate end game? Well, yeah, probably not anymore, because it's about wrapped up. But you know what? There might be some back issues. There might be some things around. What about that Ultimate Wolverine? Well, that ended at 16, but I know I have some issues of it around here. These things are in it. SpongeBob SquarePants, The Art of an Undersea World. That sounds like fun. It's a great big art book about all different artists doing SpongeBob art. It would be great to look at. To each their own. I happen to be a SpongeBob fan, but of course I'm from a generation that should, well, maybe not necessarily. I'm actually a little bit older than the generation that should like SpongeBob. It's really my children. But I like SpongeBob. SpongeBob is great. SpongeBob is fun. SpongeBob goes right along with comic books and fun and art, obviously. But all these things are inside Comics the Magazine. There's CGC, to grade and protect, and grade to invest, and grade because you love it. That's the advertisement on the back of the magazine. And my customers can come in and they can ask me about these things. They can ask me about these titles. I can get them, and I can get them on a pull list. It's a good thing. This is a good thing for the industry. But $2.99 isn't a sustainable price. I'm telling you right now, it's not a sustainable price. There's no way. There's just no way, because it's hard enough for an Image, who has worked on it all these years, to produce a title and titles for the most cost-effective price, and they're able to do it because they're not really having to pay anybody else. Consider that this is a comics magazine, and unless the 5 guys that created the magazine, they're all up there. The information, you can actually go to comicsthemagazine.com, and there's plenty of information about all the people who created it. Joe Keating, the future is redacted, is whatever that word is. That's his current comic, and he's written for Marvel and DC, and he created Shudder and Glory, and so then there's Rico Renzi. He's done coloring and artwork for Grimm and Squirrel Girl, and he's worked for everybody from Image and Marvel, and apparently featured in Wired. And there's Megan Marsden. She's a director of operations. Apparently she's worked with a company called Prana Direct Marketing Solutions to help promote indie comic books to shops and readers. And so obviously there's a team here of people who have put this together. But when you're doing something like this, you either hire staff writers and you hire the best of them, and they put out the best work, and people appreciate their work and they get paid well for their work, or you hire independents. That's going to be more expensive because it still has to be the same. This is all simple economics. It's a simple question of economics. If you want to compete, you want to produce a quality product like this, in this day and age, it costs more than $2.99 to do it. If you want to pay the people to do it, and if you want it to succeed, it's not, it's I will not be surprised to see the price go up. I would be relatively happy to see the price go up, because I believe, and everybody knows this. I know this as a collector. I know this as a seller, as a retail seller of collectibles over the years. I've been around, been doing this for a long time. And I know for a fact that when the product is good, when it is the quality product, people will pay the price for it. You do not have to lowball the price and take a chance of not being able to pay what needs to be paid to get the best. Because if you're going to do this today, if you're going to be Comics, the magazine for comic books, there's no other way to do it, because we already know, we already understand the industry and how hard it is to get these things into the hands of people and get them to read them. You don't complicate it by making it hard for you to pay the bills, for making it hard for you to pay for the quality writers and the quality conversations, and make the money investments required to be able to get the information timely and get it out there and get it printed and get it delivered in a quality, get it into my hands so that I can get it into the hands of my customers. This is a fact, and it is something that these guys will have to consider as they go forward. I guarantee it. But lovely, wonderful price, $2.99 to get started on this thing, and worth every penny of it. Absolutely. And everybody who says it's needed, everybody who says it's the right time to do this, they're absolutely right. Let me break it down for you a little bit. We have a letters section, and by the end of the day, I will have already sent off one to them, just because I have to do it. So they'll be doing a letters section. It's right up there in front. The first one doesn't really count, but it is a fun read. It's just an exchange between publisher and Zerdy, Nathan Zerdy, right? Yeah, because he's the one that had been doing. Let's see, where is? I have the actual thing sitting right in front of me. Chip Zdarsky. Why was I saying Nathan Zdarsky? They have a Z somebody. So because he did a little a thing, one of these, and he's in here talking about how it is not. He's not doing it anymore, and there's a reason, because it wasn't getting into people's hands. We'd see it out there, but it wasn't. It was an attempt to try and do something without all of the effort, and well, these guys have made the effort. They put in the effort. Now they're going to have to price their quality product for the right price, or otherwise it won't work. That's all I'm saying. In-depth articles, of course, you can look, you listen and talk to and read through all the latest articles about the creators and about the hottest books and what they're doing, and how they're making them, and how they come up with the ideas, and what the future for them is. And they really start off perfectly set in this with Absolute Batman. They pulled together the entire team. Scott Snyder, everybody, they're all there. Dragotta, they have a little bit of a conversation. Even the inkers and people, it's a conversation with everybody about the comic book and how it comes about, and what they think the future will be. And it's a great little read, just that article alone. And like I said, cover to cover. And that's the way I was with Wizard, and that's the way I feel like I'm going to be about this. Obviously I had to be to make sure that I get everything in there and check it all out. But please, picks, I got to see pics. I got to know what they're talking about. I want to know what's hot. I want to know what people are thinking about without getting all of without anything extra, that's the beauty of something like this. Comics, the magazine, a wizard, a fanzine, is that it's accessible. You don't have to go looking for it when it's here. You don't have to go digging for the information. That's one of the things about the internet. Is you want information, you have to go looking for it, and you have to sift through a bunch of garbage that may or may not be the information that you really want to get to. Because there's just so much of it. They've done the work here. They've done the work for you. They put it into the book. They're fans. They're creators themselves. These are all the things that set something like this up to be a good thing for the industry, and something that they can succeed on, and it itself survive and make it through. This is the hardest time ever to do something like this, but probably the best time ever to do it, because heavy metal is amazing. It's taken off. And while it's less magazine than magazine, like this, where than fanzine, I guess is the way to put it. It's more magazine than fanzine. It still proves the point that the quality, that if you put the money out there, you put the right price on it, and you put the quality into it, it will sell, and it will sell out. And I have people beating down my door trying to get copies of Mad from me. No, that's the next one. Sorry, trying to get copies of Heavy Metal Magazine from me. I just had to turn somebody away just earlier today because there was one of those Heavy Metal magazines left over there on the spinner. I said, no, it's gone already. Sorry, man, that one is gone. And it's just because it's good, and they made the effort, and they put the money into it, and they priced it right, and they've done all the things that I was just talking about. So it's possible. It can happen, and these guys are on the right path to doing it. Scott Snyder echoes a little sentiment of my own in his conversation with them, sort of regarding what's going on now in the industry. And he mentions the ultimate universe, which is coming to its end, but is going to have ramifications, and some things will live through to the next iteration, the current MCU, whatever it is on paper. But he talked about the Energon universe, the Kirkman thing. It's just amazing that the Energon universe is what it is. It's great, and they're about ready to introduce Mask, the Mobile Armored Strike Command. They're about ready to introduce that into it, but it's the Transformers, obviously Energon, and GI Joe and Void Rivals, and again, they're doing what is necessary to make these things work, and that's going forward with the best, putting the best forward, and that's what works, and the cream is always going to rise to the top, right? Just about the work ethic and what's happening with them. They mentioned the IDW and the Turtles. That's another one, the TMNT, that are just fantastic. They're just being done right. People are hitting all the right buttons right now, and it's probably as good a time as any to do it. And so all of these great stories are out there in comic books, and comics, the magazine, is needed in all of that to a greater extent. Talking about the Scott Snyder thing, there's even there's other titles in there that aren't these big other universes. The current running Batman title, not the Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb thing, the remnants of the last one that is still being wrapped up, the last volume of Batman, but the current volume with Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. Amazing. It's just great. It is bridging the gap perfectly between what somebody, a 53-year-old comic book reader or older, wants from a Batman, with the times and with the space that we're in. And that's with me being very particular about their Anarchy presentation, the presentation of the Anarchy character. And again, if anybody ever wants to talk to a real anarchist about how an anarchist would respond, and how they would behave in these situations, I would be happy to do that for you, and to help you flesh out that character, make him something better than what he has been in in the past. I think that almost all of even the original sort of Brayfogle and the iteration of Anarchy is always kind of milk toast to me. I've always thought, but really truly Fraction and Jimenez doing an amazing job on Batman. And it's just that regular title, and it would be sort of up there on the top if it wasn't for all these others, the ultimate titles that are up there. Spider-Man's up there, but it's released twice a month, so it doesn't. But of course, on the top is Absolute Batman, and there's a great article in there talking with the creative team. There's a comics roundtable. You get sort of a Tony Fleeks and a Kyle Higgins and a Scotty Young. I've mentioned them because they're the ones in this particular roundtable, and you get them to talk about their work and crossing over from corporate work into indie and creator-driven work as they do, and literally crossing them over in the thought of sort of crossing over some of their characters and the good or bad of those that have been realized or those that they would like to see realized. Just fantastic, exactly what you want in your comic book magazine. The creators, the people in there talking about what's going on in the industry and why it's important and why it's special, and no bias in particular, being honest and doing what's best for the industry instead of maybe necessarily what you think is best for yourself by putting yourself. I don't know. It's the Wizard story, right? They did it. It's the Stan Lee story. They did it. The facts are there if you want to go look at the details and look through the history. The scales are there. You hope they balance out the good versus the bad. This is poised to be the good, and I'd like to see it succeed for all the right reasons. There's great history of fanzines, and this could be one of them. In fact, that's one of the things that they show in here. It's actually a neat little table that they kind of show in here about the longevity, the lifespan, not necessarily the importance of, but I think the span, aside from Wizard, the number of issues, that sort of thing, of all these various fanzines over the years. It's a neat little table, close to the end of the book or so. And it talks about Rocket's Blast Collector, Amazing Heroes, the Comics Journal, the Imp, Hero Illustrated, Wizard, of course, is on there, and it's neat because it shows you the sort of dates and gives you the timeline and the number of issues, and that says a lot about it. Where you're talking about, let's say, the comic reader, where it's come and gone. And things have changed over the years, but it's still a fairly consistent thing all the way up through to today. It only has sort of 219 issues, and it's not a magazine necessarily that you want to pick up and read. That's the truth of it. It's definitely so much industry insider and so much more about. I always got the impression, and maybe that's changed in things over the years because I didn't read it. But obviously, Wizard is a different magazine. Was a different magazine, and it had more issues in a shorter period of time. So you can assume, you can say, you can postulate that it was more influential in a shorter period of time, but that's, who's to say? It was big, it was huge, it did its thing, and it's time. There's actually an ad in the back of Comics of the magazine here that says something about Wizard. There's top 10s. There is a top 100 sort of graded comic books thing in here. Price guide in here, but they're all 9.8, and it's very limited, and I hope they stay away from trying to turn it into a price guide. I know that was a thing that sold Wizard, but that was also a time when those things couldn't be found anywhere else. That information couldn't be found anywhere else. Here, do you miss Wizard Magazine? Weekly podcast, over 360 episode, 100% nostalgia, interviews with Wizard staffers, the podcast guide to comics, Wizards, the podcast guide to comics. Revisit every issue from the 90s and beyond. I'd heard something about that before. they're still going, they're still out there, but they're not doing this. They're not going out on the limb and taking the chance and doing the big thing, going back to print. It's neat. The top tens, there's a bunch of that stuff in there. There's a next big thing talking about the future of comic books and the future of creators, and then that's me, because it's all about the future. You enjoy the time now while it's going on, but we have to have our eyes on the future in terms of getting comic books into the hands of people and seeing that the industry survives. The independent industry is always going to survive in one fashion or another, but this particular fashion, this come into the store, find the book, find it in your hands, not hunting it down over the internet and having it delivered. The experience of knowing somebody and talking to somebody in the store and buying locally and all those things that everybody believes is good for themselves and good for the economy, and is absolutely true that they are, certainly the local economy, but it's good for the whole of the economy of comics, and I'm looking forward to it. There's some art instruction. I mentioned that earlier, and it's sort of somebody showing you how to draw bags and backpacks and pouches and some of these some of the things. Everybody's kind of. I thought about it for a minute when I first saw it. I was like, oh, well, everybody's always concentrating on sort of the figure and the faces and that sort of stuff. This is pretty cool. I'm seeing somebody concentrating on all the other sort of things that are going on there, and it's all of these pieces and parts that make the whole what it is, and so it's just great to see that they're not pushing any sort of agenda in terms of trying to make it what you expect. You would expect right away they're going to jump right in there. Let me show you how to draw Batman or something like that. No, let me show you how to draw Batman's pouches. This is people committed to art. This is what I read out of it, and this is all entirely my opinion. I stand nothing to gain from it. Who knows if anybody will even see this video? I just turn on the microphone and I do what I've done for years and years as a DJ, as a speaker, as a presenter, as a lover of collectibles, as somebody who still reads a little bit. I just appreciate it, and I want to see it work. I want to see, one of the coolest things that was in it was classifieds, and I'd like to see that expanded a little bit. I think that's fun. I think classifieds were always one of the funnest things to read in a newspaper and in a magazine, because especially something like this where we should be having fun, there should be fun. You should be reading through those, not because you're necessarily expecting to find something in there that somebody hasn't already bought, if it's even a real product or a real service or something that somebody is offering. Somebody trying to sell their collection, for instance, is what I'm getting at, and it could already be gone by the time you see it, and that's the danger of something in print. But the reason you read it is because the other things that will be in there, the fun, the humor, the things that people will people. I'm the type of person who does this. I've done this on eBay before when the digital world started, and you could reach lots of people with funny, humorous sorts of things. I posted a thing that had many thousands of hits years and years ago on eBay about buying a political candidate. And so you do, and that's been a thing. And so I paid to post that up there and to have that posted up there on eBay. And people will pay to post an ad that's just something humorous or funny. And of course, obviously, a classified section is just a great way for people to hook up. If it wasn't for a classified section, why today we wouldn't be able to hear somebody like Gene Simmons go around and tell everybody in Hollywood that they should shut the F up about their political opinions while he rambles on ignorantly about how musicians get paid through radio stations. But we wouldn't have that because there wouldn't have been an ad posted in the back of a rock and roll fanzine about a drummer or whatever seeks. I don't know. I've heard it before. I think probably from Family Guy, in fact, just some other pop culture thing. Listen, this is a great start. Comics the Magazine. Pick this up in your LCS right now. Support your LCS by buying it from him. We're giving them away to the people that we put a few things out there like the new comic book reviews that I do, things like that, and mention that we have them. And if you mention that you heard this, grab one for free. Just because we don't have the ability to just give things away. That's not how. I didn't. I start this thing by saying how we do this for the love of it and not for the money, because there isn't a lot of money in it on this end these days. And it's these things like this that are going to make or break something like a little shop here in Topeka, Kansas called Amazing Fantasies. So get yourself Comics the Magazine and support it, read it, write to them, let them know that you're out here and know that this is something you want to see and that you think it's important in comic books. I certainly think it is. I wish them the best of luck. I caution them to consider premium pricing for a premium product. I'm not saying bump the price up and blow people out of the water with it and drive people away. I'm saying that quality work can command the price that goes with it to keep the quality work going. Collectors, people like myself, we will pay for it. That's all I'm saying. So the best of luck to the comics, the magazine guys, and we'll certainly be carrying it in the store. And if you're ever in Topeka, Kansas, stop by the store and see us sometime. It's Amazing Fantasies. If you're ever just going down I-70, we're not too far off of I-70. If you're just passing through and you have a little bit of time to zip into the town, it's not a terrible town. It's no worse than any place in America. Truly, it's a nice town with nice people when you get to know them, and we have an amazing comic book store here, I know, because it's mine. So stop and see us sometime and give this thing a like and share it around if you're inclined to do so. And thank you for tuning in.